Hi, this is Farah, and I am here on February 25th interviewing Freya. Freya.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Pretty good. How
Good
are
to
you?
be here.
Yeah, great to have you here.
I know, catching last day in Bombay for the time.
It's been a whirlwind for you.
It's been a whirlwind, heading back to San Francisco, but Bombay is always home of sorts.
Nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So, talking about home, can you tell us about the home that you grew up in?
Yes. I grew up in Florida. My mom is from Bombay. My dad is from Karachi. My parents are first cousins, disturbingly or not.
Typical
which
Parsis,
they exactly,
anyways.
which they still don't think is strange. And I have a younger sister, Xenia, and I'd say I grew up. I had a very nice childhood. I think, especially now as an adult, and seeing families and seeing partnerships and realizing, okay, I'm pretty darn lucky to have two really good parents who prioritized my sister and I, and just brought us up well. I'm sure, again, as you get older, you realize their struggles, which you don't realize as a kid.
Yeah.
But I think to that point, we had a nice life, and I think in the typical either Parsi or Indian kind of way, where education is obviously instilled in us as a priority, I think that I took that on probably even more so than my parents pushed me to just be this perfect student, which that was, I guess that was a thread of continuity from the youngest days through college and whatnot, and then the flip side was, I think, always this like yearning in some ways to fit in America, and wanted in some way just be like the blonde hair, blue eyed cheerleader, which it turned out to be a cheerleader, but not not blonde hair, blue eyed. So I guess it was kind of that struggle, I guess, a little bit of being the first generation, so first person on both sides of my family born in the U.S. So in that way, our parents are things like the middle school dance. I still remember I didn't get to go, and
Your parents didn't.
yeah, they're like, no,
do
girls
stuff
and
like
boys don't do this when they're this age, kind of a thing. And it was those things which, when you're growing up in a very like, say, upper middle class white suburbia, back in those days, not very diverse or mixed really, and so you're just trying to be norm, and I didn't appreciate as much my roots and culture like I do now.
Okay.
And I guess now I do appreciate that we did have some for Central Florida in the 80s. I mean, amazingly, we did have, like, I'd say probably 100 or so Parsis and maybe like 25 families, and a few of them really close, the way that now here that I got to know Bombay life, where friends are like family. So we did have some sense of that, but later in recent adult years, when I came and lived here and really got to know roots and culture, I realized like how different it would have been to grow up here, because you do have such a strong sense of identity, I guess, and belonging and community, versus, it's not that I don't think I felt as an outsider. I mean, I'm American as any American, but actually I'm less American than most Americans. I'd say I'm more international, but in those days, I wouldn't say I felt like an outsider, but it was always trying to, I guess, fit in, or that's probably adolescence for anyone.
It's kind of an immigrant mentality, isn't it?
It's an immigrant thing, for
Yeah.
sure. And yes, you're always one step removed, and now I really appreciate that. I'd much rather actually have that. But when you're a kid, you don't like have that level of just depth or understanding or appreciation.
Yeah.
So you just want to be normal.
You want to fit in.
You want to fit in, and
every turn, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that it was a mix of that, and just growing into your skin over time. But it was ironic that in childhood and all the people I grew up with, I ended up coming and living in India in my mid and late 20s.
Wow.
And I was the last person, everyone would say, like, you're the last person we thought would want to go to Bombay, who would love it there, who would end up staying for a while. And, because I just was I think I wasn't interested in my own culture as much, like in that wanting to fit in kind of a thing as a kid. So it took me a while to get there.
So what was
I think it was like this
kind of moment.
Yeah, I think it was mid-20s in this seeker phase of life of more, in both spirituality and just this cliche of want to know your roots and culture that drew me here. But I had worked in New York for a few years after college in finance, and I was working at Lehman Brothers in 2008, and that was when all of that went kaput.
Oh, wow.
So that was
you were right there.
I was there. I was in it. And
amazing.
It's my get-out-of-jail-free card for finance, which I never liked. Yeah. So it was the best time to kind of take off. And I'd say, I guess this is core to who I am that I appreciate now over time is I do have, I guess I'm not afraid to try things and just kind of go off and do things even when everyone tells me I'm crazy. So
nice.
When
you're brave and adventurous.
Yes, I guess so. Definitely that adventurous. I'd say I'm a true Sagittarian in being a bit of a butterfly and sociable and easy to kind of. I can make a home or build roots or make friends anywhere, which has served me well as I kind of have adventured around.
Nice.
But the commitment piece is
the
part of a Sagittarian. Exactly. It's easier to move than kind of stay.
Right.
So, so I, at end of 2008, when job was no longer, I lived my Sagittarian form and I went to Rome.
Nice.
Just kind of on this adventure of I've always wanted to live abroad, learn another language and culture, and always had this love affair with Italy, and didn't have much of a plan and had X amount of money, and so I just kind of said, okay, let's go see what happens, and the worst that happens is you buy a flight back to America and figure things out. And so I did that, and I ended up without having a plan, I stayed in Rome for 2 years and then went to Brussels for a year. But I had, I hope not the last best years of my life, but some of the best years of my life. I ended up doing a number of things. I worked with a lovely American woman, and she had a small consulting firm. So I worked with her for those 2 years in Rome and helped her to open an office in Brussels thereafter. And I also ended up, before I had left to go to Italy, I did an English teaching certification course. Because I figured, okay, that's something I can do abroad, right? And so on the side, I ended up, which, I feel like these people ended up teaching me more than I taught them, but I worked with the Corte Cassazione and the Ministero della Giustizia, so the Italian Ministry of Justice and Supreme Court, the kind of magistrati, the high court judges.
Wow.
I used to do one-on-one English lessons with them, and they really turned out to be like Italian lessons / all these guys, just became my friends. Their families became my friends. I went to their homes in Sardinia and Sicily, and
lovely.
we'd talk about, that's like really getting to know Italian people, like such warmth and so much culture and tradition and just friendly, open, kind, hospitable people. Absolutely. And it's I realized, actually, and then thereafter when I came to live in India, I realized, okay, wow, Indian and Italian culture are so similar.
Yeah.
Really similar, which is why, obviously, having this as a base, why I fit in there so easily, because it's familial and warm and connected and rooted in so much tradition and I guess like life as priorities versus in America, which is why I feel less and less American. It is so much like work, and life is somewhere in there. And in both of India and Italy, it's so geographically diverse, right? From north to south, everything changes. The people change, the language change, the food changes, the traditions change, the geography itself changes, and So there's a lot of parallels, but I lived with 4 Italians who really became familia, and that is how I learned Italian. So this mix of 3 of them were Southern Italian, 1 more Central, and again, it's just that bond, that connect, that such fun. And it was mid-20s. I think that's a good time of life.
Free.
Anyways, exactly. And I just really used that time to explore. I got to know Europe really well. I think I traveled through 23 countries of Europe, and same thing when I then went to Brussels. It was less my cup of tea. It's because it's not. I think you can't go from Rome to Brussels. It's hard to go anywhere after Rome. But exactly, Brussels it's great for what it is, and that it's central, right? So I got to know. I spent, I'd say, most of the year that I lived in Brussels, I was in France or the Netherlands or Germany, or really? Exploring around because it is so central.
Yeah.
I left, and Brussels is kind of a commuter city, given it's the EU capital, and so people are coming and going, quite transient. And at the same time, it's kind of a neither here nor there. Meaning, I guess a huge part of me is I love depth in culture. I love culture. I love people. I work in people-oriented stuff now, and so I think just getting to know people at this cultural level is what I really thrive on or enjoy or drives me in some way. And so I do better in places that or have really strong cultures, right? And so it was Europe in that way, obviously, is such a condensed conglomerate of so much differentiation. It's amazing in your backyard in any which way.
You can travel anywhere easily.
Yeah, and that is again why that's a big part of me. I just love traveling and exploring and getting to know people and connecting with people. So
as I'm listening to you, I'm wondering if there are any parallels between the travels, your external journey, and your internal journey.
Yeah, that's a good question. I absolutely think, it's part of the internal seeker journey I was talking to you about with, I think as I've, 34 now, from 24, which is when all these adventures kind of started, till now, it has been a bit going more and more internal. So I definitely still run around a lot and, kind of, I don't think I'll ever quench my thirst for wanting to know and see the world and everything and everywhere. But realizing kind of the balance of that is being grounded in yourself and realizing I feel at home in very many places.
Nice.
I don't feel at home in just one place, and I think other people have a very strong sense geographically or of a place home. I think mine is more so in self, and then in a partnership, in a relationship, in a family, probably more than just one spot on the planet. And I would love to actually build my life and live my life that way, and having many geographic homes.
Nice.
But, as part of, I think, what brought me from Europe to Bombay next was this, originally, this kind of yearning to know roots and culture, and then just in my own spiritual journey. And so I came to India, it must have been 2011 or so, and I thought I'd spend a year here, which became 3 years.
Wow.
And I just loved Bombay because, especially the being a Parsi thing.
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden click of, whoa, you feel the sense of belonging, you feel the sense of community. People know who you are, and people kind of respect or appreciate. Parsis have made such a contribution to this city and country, and anyone that you meet in Bombay, if when they find out or you're a Parsi, it's this smile, and it's just a sense of quirkiness, maja masti, exuberance. I feel